Today we're going to be reviewing the second season original series episode Amok Time. It's a great episode. Today I've got my friend Bosco here with me today. How you doing today, Bosco?
Pretty good.
All right, we're doing fine. I'll give you a rundown of the episode just in case you haven't seen it. In this episode, we find out that Spock is going through the Vulcan ritual of Ponfar. It's a mating ritual that Vulcans go through once every several years.
And they're very embarrassed about it.
They are very embarrassed about it. They don't talk about it much, even to his own captain. And Spock tries conniving ways of diverting to Vulcan and able to go through with it. And then most of the episode takes place trying to get to Vulcan, and eventually they do, and it ends up with some almost disastrous consequences as we find out. What do you think about this episode, Bosco?
I thought it was pretty good. It's one of those episodes that, if someone has seen the original Star Trek series, they probably remember this episode.
Yeah, it was a very classic one. It's one of those ones that probably rates on most people's top 10 lists. By the time you see it, everyone's in character, and so, when you see certain characters behaving the way they do, it's very understandable, especially with, Spock acting out of control, and Kirk, questioning, and he wants to do the best thing for his friend, but he's also conflicted with his obligations to Starfleet at the time, because he's actually, he has to report to another mission at the time, but Spock's practically begging him and almost actually deceives him into diverting to Vulcan in order for him to go through with it.
Also, this is the first time we get a look at Vulcans and how their culture is.
It's a very good point. I know for a fact it's actually the first time we actually get to see the Vulcan hand salute that Spock is so famous of. I know he invented that on the spot for that episode. So yeah, it's really, actually, I think it might be, I could be wrong, it might be the first time you actually get to hear the Vulcan language spoken. But yeah, it's a really great episode, and it really gives a lot to the whole Star Trek lore. So your thoughts on the episode, Bosco? What would you say was your favorite scene out of the entire episode?
I had a couple, but one of the parts I really enjoyed was seeing Chekhov and Sulu on the bridge. And they sort of just talk more regularly about what's going on, because they're on the bridge. They don't really know what's happening with Spock. All they know is that they keep having to change course, and they're just sort of idly joking around about it to themselves.
Yeah, it's very realistic. It really kind of paints a picture. They don't know what the hell is going on, and it's much like you would be on a regular starship. All they know is they're just following their orders, and they're just doing what they're told, and they're not really filled in about much anything. So, yeah, that's a really good scene. I personally think my favorite scene in the episode is, I really did enjoy that whole scene with Spock in his quarters, because the whole time that Spock is talking to Kirk, he's gripping this piece of whatever it is behind his back, and he's like trying to restrain his emotions the whole time, and it almost looks like a weapon. Personally, to me, it almost looked like he was about ready to stab Kirk in the head if he didn't agree to whatever it was he was asking. And you can even tell that when Kirk finally agrees to his conditions, he walks over to the console and diverts the ship to Vulcan, and as he's doing it, he kind of looks over to Spock behind his back, and he's still gripping that thing, trembling almost. But yeah, that was a very compelling scene altogether. A really good piece of writing, I think, on the original series part. I think the best point of this episode, the one that most people focus on, is that the fight between Kirk and Spock. It was a really well thought out scene. You don't get to see Kirk and Spock fight too much. And they're best friends, and turning against each other isn't such a great thing. Didn't you think that was just very compelling?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree. Spock was forced to fight for his wife, even against his best friend, and you even find out that she didn't even really want either one of them. She was just doing it so that she could end up being with the man she really wanted.
It was very logical.
It was very logical, and Spock pointed it out, and that's what he told her. Of course, he also told her and Stan at the end that, even though this is what you want, you may find that wanting is not always as need. How did he put it? Having is not nearly as good a thing as wanting, which is a good life lesson to live by.
Definitely.
Definitely. Wow, what else can we say about this episode? Any other points you'd want to bring up, Bosco?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember too much of the first season, but there is a scene where Uhura is on the bridge and she has to make a call to Starfleet Command, and she has something that looks very akin to a Bluetooth device on her ear.
Well, yeah, I mean, she said that I'd probably say throughout most of the season. That was kind of her trademark. Yeah, she has the...
Did she have it in the first season? Because this is the first episode of the second season.
This is the first episode of season. I mean, I think she's had that all along. I mean, I don't know when the first appearance of it was, but she definitely did have that earpiece that a lot of fans have grown to love.
Well, little did she know she was paving the way for future communication devices that actually work.
Mm-hmm. Actually, did you know that her actual earpiece was actually used in an episode of Enterprise as a time... It was part of a time bomb.
Oh, no, I did not know
I bet you did not know that. I did not mention that earlier. But yeah, they reused the same prop. It was just a little piece of continuity that they used. Very interesting. But yeah, that is very... it's one.
I hope my Bluetooth headset never becomes a time bomb.
Yeah,
especially while I'm using it.
I bet we can figure something out to do that. But yeah, that's one of those things. You know, they Star Trek, they pick up on it and becomes more real as things go on. Even the communicator itself.
Didn't you have a slight problem with the episode though? Something you might want a little rant you had.
Well, my whole rant about the episode was, I mean, just like women that we know today, I mean, she ends up playing just a basic mind game with Spock. I touched on this earlier, but I mean, the whole thing is, okay, she doesn't want to be with Spock. I mean, they've been had a prearranged marriage since birth, and Spock was willing to die for this woman. I mean, this was his wife, and he was willing to do anything she asked, and as per Vulcan tradition, she said, okay, if you want me, you have to fight to the death. And he said, okay, who does she make him fight? His best friend. Isn't that like a woman to just turn the man who loves her against her own best friend? I mean, that's just wrong. And then not only that, but you find out in the end, she didn't really want either of them. She wanted this whole other guy. She was hoping they would kill each other or whatever reason. Actually, she was hoping that Spock would kill Kirk, and that in his anger, he would just shun her away to begin with. And it's completely crazy. I mean, that's just like, you know, Vulcan, human, I guess it really doesn't matter. I guess all across the galaxy, women just want to play mind games with the men who love them.
Well, you know what they say, men are from Mars, women are from Vulcan.
Yeah, exactly. It might as well be, because that's just insane. Of course, she does end up getting her way in the end. She ends up being with Stan, and I guess that's what she wanted, so I guess she fell right into Spock's trap. I guess, you know, that's men for you too. They just can't say no to the women that they love. What did you think of the very end scene? Actually, you remember the very end after Spock finds out that Kirk is actually alive?
Oh, he basically jumps for joy.
Jumps for joy, and he actually smiled. He smiled, which is not something you see Spock do very often.
But he quickly corrected himself.
He corrected himself. Not only that, McCoy actually told him it was a very logical thing, and Spock agreed. It was a great episode all around. I'm trying to think. I think it's about time to give this a rating. What would you rate this episode, Bosco?
I would give it a warp 8.
Warp 8? You know what? I am going to have to agree. I think a warp 8 is a very good rating for this episode. I mean, it was probably one of the best second season episodes in the original series, and everybody should definitely check it out. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Bosco?
Nope.
All right then. In that case, everybody, second season original series, check it out. Amok time.